It may be hard to imagine a time when teenagers of 18 could be snatched out of college or a job and put into the military. Refuse and go to jail. Old enough to kill but not for voting, as the song Eve of Destruction written by P.F. Sloan in 1964 put it. Women could not be drafted, but many chose to enlist. Others felt the pressure to marry him before he ships out and scarcely knew the husbands that came home to them. Step forward a score of years. It's 1985. I live in a rundown farmhouse in a little town called Roy in Washington State, not far from Fort Lewis. My brother comes to visit me. Fort Lewis does a late-night artillery practice. We not only hear it, it shakes my old house, rattling the windows, and my brother begins to shake and sweat. 20 years was not long enough to erase that reflex. I was a relatively young writer then. I worked blue-collar jobs and wrote at night. When you work slinging pizza and pouring beer, you see an interesting cross-section of people. Homeless guys are waiting by the dumpster when you take out the garbage. But one night, as I was clearing a table where a family had dined and left half a pizza and a salad behind, a man approached me. "Such a shame to throw away so much food," he said. And that was all, but I heard more than that. I nodded, left that table, and moved on to the next one. He slid into the booth, wiped the silverware and the inside of a coffee cup. He went to the self-service coffee stand and poured some fresh coffee into the mug. He sat down and finished the pizza and the salad. When he left, I bussed the table. It wasn't the last time I saw him, and once my eyes were opened, I began to see others like him. One came into the laundromat where I was doing my laundry. There was a lost and found box there with odd garments left in dryers or washers. He selected some socks that almost matched, a t-shirt and a washcloth, and then left. In Seattle, the homeless population had begun to swell. Their camps were visible, tucked high in the underpasses of the freeways and in the deep brush of the medians. I saw vets sitting on benches in Pioneer Square, some in the faded fatigue jackets they'd worn for many a year. Stories are born when ideas collide. Wizard of the Pigeons grew from my realization that some of our vets had been through a catalyzing experience that had changed them in a fundamental way. Mix in the reality that a score of years had not been enough to erase those changes, and add the knowledge that some of them had found ways to survive, just as pigeons or coyotes do, in a city that is not their natural home. The year is now 2020 as this new edition is published. 50 years have passed since I was a high school student watching friends go off to war. The homeless problem in Seattle has burgeoned far beyond anything I could ever have imagined back then. Veterans of more recent wars still struggle to make sense of what they were asked to do, and what they did. The more it changes, the more it stays the same. If I ask anything of the listener, it would be that they apply the lens of time while listening to this urban fantasy. Most of the wish fulfillment you will find in here is the wish I had for acquaintances and ex-boyfriends and relatives and strangers. That the experiences they endured and the transformations they went through had, in the end, some positive outcomes. That they could discover power in themselves and survive all we had put them through. That they could accept the street wizards that they had become. Megan Lindholm, May 2020. Chapter 1. On the far western shore of a northern continent there was once a harbor city called Seattle. It did not have much of a reputation for sunshine and beaches, but it did have plenty of rain, and the folk who lived there were wont to call it the Emerald City for the greenness of its foliage. And the other thing it boasted was a great friendliness that fell upon strangers like its rain, but with more warmth. In that city there dwelt a wizard. Not that folk recognized him as a wizard, for even in those days wizards were becoming rarer with each passing year. He lived a simple life upon the streets of the city, passing among the folk like the wind passes among the flowers, unseen but not unfelt. He was known to the few who knew him simply as Wizard.